Alrighty, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about the magic of Epsom salt baths and how it relates to your metabolism. So if you're interested, stick around. Alright, so what I'm going to do is shift it over to the computer so we can actually take a look and research what Epsom salts are, because I'm also a little vague on it. And so this is an opportunity for both you and I to learn about it and how do I process new information, right? I'm the type of person that likes to not only just give you a fish, I like to teach you how to fish so that way you can fish on your own in the future. All these videos, all 300 of these videos that you're going to be watching over time, these are all based on the fact that I made sure that you understand the first principles aspects of everything. With that being said, let's go ahead and shift over. Okay, so what I like to do is, as you already know, YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world. What does that mean? That means that anytime anyone wants to search on the internet, they first go to Google, or if they do not go to Google, they go to YouTube, because YouTube has a more AV aesthetics compared to Google, where it's just textual. So with that being said, if you take a look over here, we're gonna go ahead and YouTube Epsom salt baths, and we'll see a bunch of stuff that pops up here. I know it's some sort of minerals within the baths that they're actually talking about, and we'll actually look through one of the videos, a short one, that it makes sense on what we're actually looking at. So they're all different, but how do I do this now? I look at the different types of view that they have. And I also know this person right here, Thomas DeLauer, 281,000 views. A science show should tell you a little bit about it.
Dialpad's AI sales has completely transformed how we sell. AI is built right in with life coaching.
Don't be the weirdo that drinks your bathwater. Seriously, you don't need to. In this video, I want to explain something about Epsom salt baths. I'm going to talk about if you can take an Epsom salt bath and actually absorb magnesium through your skin. It's pretty interesting stuff. But first and foremost, we have to remember that Epsom salt is not really a salt. It's actually magnesium sulfate. What that means is it's magnesium.
All right, guys, so magnesium sulfate, that's all I need to know, to be honest. So let me come back here. This is great because not only am I refreshing my memory, you guys are going to get a really good glimpse. Many of you know that I did organic chemistry. I was a TA, teaching assistant for organic chemistry in college, where I got my biochemistry degree in. And magnesium sulfate is one of those amazing compounds that we use in the Orgo lab to whenever we wanted to absorb water from the environment, from whatever the chemical reaction was. And so in this situation, Epsom salt is just the trade name, you know, the name that you could go to the store and actually ask for, hey, do you have, instead of saying magnesium sulfate or MagSalt, you just say, hey, do you have Epsom salts? And they'll have that for you. And now he's going to talk about the powers of what does that actually do. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say.
Sulfate and water molecules all together. But what we really want to determine is, can that magnesium sulfate pass through your skin, get into your bloodstream, and potentially replenish depleted or deprived magnesium stores? Well, I'm going to reference some studies that lead us in some pretty powerful directions, although nothing is truly conclusive. Okay, the first thing I want to look at is a study that was done in vitro. Okay, this study was done in a petri dish. That's what in vitro means. It means that it wasn't done in an actual live trial, it was done in a lab. However, still lots of good science that can come from that. What this study looked at was if anions and cations can pass through skin molecules or skin tissue.
By the way, it's anions and cations. He's saying anions and cations. It's all good, but that's how you say it because it's anion. Like it's an anatopic ion and then catatonic ion. I don't think it's catatonic, but there's a certain terminology that the chemistry people use when they describe the negative or the positive. The anion is negative charged, cations are positive charged.
To actually potentially allow the absorption of nutrients. Well, this study did find that anions and cations, which are basically just negatively charged ions and positively charged ions, can indeed pass through skin tissue. So that was phase one. We wanted to look at how magnesium can pass through, but now we actually want to look at if magnesium levels can be restored in the blood, if it can go one step further. Well, the good news is there's a study that looked at that. The bad news...
Okay, so you guys got the idea of Epsom salts, right? So, because he's specifically talking about magnesium, and magnesium is great. That might be another topic for another day, but really what we want to talk about is Epsom salts and how does it relate to your metabolism. So if you actually understand what he's trying to explain to you, metabolism also involves nutrients, right? So how do you actually absorb those nutrients? And so a lot of times when you do Epsom salts, what you're doing is you're recalibrating the chemical balance within yourself. So, sometimes people use it when they're taking a shower or they're using it in their face. This is gonna just allow more hydration to come inside of your body, and which is great. We want that. And so as a result of that, you definitely take advantage of Epsom salt baths. I know a lot of times when you have hemorrhoids and whatnot, you want to do an Epsom salt bath because it really helps decrease the swelling and etc. So definitely keep that in mind. I know this is the corollary to metabolism isn't the greatest, but it's just another tool for you in your arsenal, right? There's a ton of tools that you can use to optimize your body. This is just one of them. So magnesium sulfate is an amazing tool to use if you actually do need to use it. Magnesium has so many more benefits than just this. We'll get into different topics in future videos. Now, metabolism, right? We always want to talk about the aspects of metabolism that most people are not aware of. Every single person is, when they eat a meal, they're getting carbs, fats, and proteins. And we want to understand that, the relationship between those three and which one is the best. Or it doesn't really matter because you need actually a combination of all of them. Your muscles, so if you're trying to build muscle, you want to make sure that you're getting enough protein, right? Because what happens is when the muscle rips, when you're building it, it ends up building higher than that, and that's where the proteins are needed. But you also need carbs because your muscles leverage sugars, glucose for energy, so you want to have proper carbs in place. You don't want to just give it only protein, because then your body has to convert that protein into sugar, which is a different biomechanical pathway, which you don't need to actually pursue. Biochemical, not biomechanical, biochemical pathway, which you don't need to pursue if you don't need to. If you're in a state of famine where you need to break down those proteins and make it into sugar, that's a different story. But now in our situation, fats are also becoming, we demonize fats, but in reality, fats are actually really, really good for you. Extremely good for you. Your whole brain is made out of fat. The whole tissue, from the brain to the spinal cord through all the tentacles that's coming out, it's made from fat. Every one of your cells is made out of fat. So it's super duper important. It's just that we are storing too many of it, which then we demonize it because it has a lot of negative side effects when you have too much fat. It's like you're getting spoiled meats. When you have spoiled meat and it smells and it's very what's that word? Spoiled, not sour, but just I'll find that word. It's when you see poop and then you see the little lines. Rancid, that's the smell. Rancid smell. That's what ends up happening when you have too much fats in one location. That skin, that area starts becoming rancid and starts getting really, really messed up. With that being said, guys, okay, so now let's take a step back, right? So now we know that the three main ingredients of food is protein, carbs, and fats. You have to figure out, okay, what is most important to you right now? If you look in the mirror, you have just maybe a little bit of fat, just maybe a little bit of overweight, then you don't really have to worry about carbs, fat, or protein. But if you have too much fat accumulated, then you need to start thinking about, okay, what is your diet like right now? Are you eating a lot of carbs right now? If so, let's minimize that because you have a lot of fat stored. Any extra carb that's not being used by your brain or your muscles or any of the other things that use your sugar, it's going to go convert it to fat. So we want to stop that. We want to eliminate that because we already have a lot of fat accumulated. We want to burn that fat. So which is why we want to go into ketosis, which is going to allow us to burn that fat into whatever energy forms we need. Then once you start burning it, then you can go back to normal diet of carbs, proteins, fats. You don't really have to think about it because only in the beginning do you really got to think about it if you really understand what I'm talking about. And then after that, it just becomes a very normal habituated process. So in our metabolism protocol, right? So core M3, metabolism, we talk about this a lot. We talk about feed and fast. When should you feed? How much time window do you give yourself? Time restricted eating. When do you give yourself the amount to eat? And then when do you give yourself to fast? Because we want to undergo something called autophagy. And autophagy would be really, really beneficial with Epsom salts as well, now that I think about it, because when your body's going under autophagy, which is another topic for another video, definitely comment below if you want to sort of me to fast track that video so we can all watch it. but autophagy is amazing. So we'll talk about that in another video. But with that being said, guys, understand that Epsom salts is really beneficial because magnesium sulfate, it has so many different beautiful use cases of it in all different disciplines. But for our body, it helps with absorption of magnesium. Magnesium has a lot of benefits to our body. One of the ones that I use, I love, but also has a side effect. What I love about it is it makes muscles less sore. After you work out, you take some magnesium sulfate or magnesium something, some chelate of some sort, and then you feel amazing. You don't really need to take any painkillers. You just allow the magnesium to do its thing. The soreness actually goes away. But the counter effect is that if you feel like you need to take it too many times too often, it also makes your stool more soft. When it does that, it makes it more liquidy. And as you can already imagine what that means, right? You have you have liquidy, watery stool, which you don't really want to have unless you want to, of course. If you want to force diarrhea, be my guest. With that being said, guys, let's end it on that note. I'll see you on the next one, but definitely comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate all of you. Hopefully you're on your journey of healing, optimizing yourself to your optimal potential. So I'll see you on the next one, and I'm gone.